Hi, everyone. Welcome to Packmates. I'm Robi. We've got Ryan and
Hello.
Andrew.
Hey, what's up?
And we're the Packmates. Today we're going to be talking about our last FNM, some reasonable wheels, some 17 Lance data. If you want to follow us on our YouTube, if you like our content, our YouTube is Sarulf's Packmates. Our Twitter is at PackmatesMTG. Our TikTok is Sarulf's Packmates. And you can listen to us on Spotify, Amazon, and Google, and hopefully more to come. So we're going to start off with our FNM recap, and we're going to have Ryan tell us about his FNM victory this week.
Yeah, why are we having Ryan start?
Because he won this week.
Oh, yeah, he did.
To
be fair, I technically tied with Andrew because, of the way that they do it. But we did a best of one at the end, so it's not completely conclusive.
Not conclusive yet. We still got to finish our set.
But for all intents and purposes.
We both had a 3-0 victory there.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to talk about a little bit of our FNM. It's been a solid group of guys. You have a few that come in every once in a while, a couple new faces here and there. But for the main part, there's probably, 8 of us that are pretty core, I'd say. Do you guys agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. And then last night we probably had, 18 people?
Yeah, quite a few more than usual.
We had enough for 2 pods, which was great.
Yep. And we draft every Friday, so we're going to talk about our FNM, and the format there is just 3 rounds and then end, so it doesn't play to a true winner. That's why Andrew and I tied. We were both 3-0. I'm going to talk about the cards that overperformed for me, or performed well. Maybe not overperformed, but performed well. First off, I opened a Jaya Fiery Negotiator. This is 2 colorless double red for a Planeswalker that starts off at 4 loyalty. Her +1 abilities make a 1/1 red monk with prowess. -1 is exile the top 2 cards of your library. Choose one of them and you may play that card this turn. -2, choose target creature an opponent controls. Whenever you attack this turn, Jaya deals damage to the equal to the number of attacking creatures to that creature. So if you attack with 3 dudes, that guy takes 3. And then it's got an emblem with whenever you cast a red instant or sorcery, copy it twice, you may choose new targets for the copy. So this is actually, I've done 4 events in person, and this is the 3rd time I've had Jaya, and
must be nice, Ryan.
Yeah, she's pretty good. She's pretty good. I don't think she's like a super amazing bomb rare. She is double pipped, but she's so flexible. She protects herself. She's like must answer. Draws cards. Like I almost never use the draw cards. Like I just make a prowess or I just kill a thing, right? But the draw cards is relevant sometimes if I need to hit a land drop or something. But she's super good. The double pips is rough, but don't undervalue her. You need to get her off the battlefield if you can, because otherwise she's just.
Were you ever able to emblem Jaya?
I don't even try to emblem her.
Oh, okay.
I don't even care. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna make a couple monks, and then I'm gonna kill one of your dudes to get swings in, and then I'm gonna make a couple more monks. Like, yeah, I just don't care. And then when they finally get enough bodies to deal with her and swing at her, then I just take it all and win the next turn. Like, it's fine. So next up, a really good card is Maria's Outrider. We're starting to see these flying decks become crazy prevalent, and Maria's Outrider is a 4 colorless 1 red for a 4/4 reach with Domain, and it domes your opponent equal to the number of basic land types you control. So if you have all 5 different basic land types, it deals 5 to the face. But just the amount of flying dudes, people are starting to draft that blue Flyers deck a lot more, or the blue white, blue red, whatever Flyers deck, and the reach is super important. But the damage, the domain damage is nothing to scoff at either. Especially because we're in Mardu, we're in red, black, white, and we have a lot of recursion. So that dome, that damage to the face really adds up.
Did you splash any other colors to kind of up your domain on that, or was 3 the kind of magic number on that?
I actually got 5 a few times. I played a green-blue combo land, even though none of my cards were green or blue. Mostly for the green kicker, but I was like...
there's a green card in your deck, right?
So you actively played a colorless land in your deck?
For kicker.
For Urborg repossession? Yes.
Okay. Yeah, for Urborg repossession.
You're correct.
I was like, this is basically like a dead land for everything besides Urborg repossession. Would I rather play a forest, or would I rather attack the island on there too and get a little extra domain? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like if you put that forest in your deck, then you're able to get back Jaya, right?
Right. Like I'm gonna play, but so like why not play the Forest Island. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's
Like, might as well.
yeah.
Like, I'm not just gonna put a plain
I'm-
forest in my deck.
Yeah.
It's funny that the
Yeah.
domain guy is the one who's agreeing with you, throwing
Yeah.
gas on this fire.
Yeah. But the base of the deck was red, black, good stuff. We just had a ton of good stuff, and then we're splashing white. Again, I think white is just so strong to splash so often. The main cards I splashed for were Prayer of Binding. That's the 3 colorless, 1 white enchantment with flash, and when it enters the battlefield, exile up to 1 non-land permanent an opponent controls until it leaves. You gain 2 life. And then Phyrexian Missionary. That's 1 colorless and a white for a 2/3 lifelinker. It has Kicker, colorless and a black. And if it was kicked, when it enters the battlefield, return target creature from your graveyard to your hand. So we just had good stuff, and we were just getting it back. We had 2 Phyrexian Missionaries and 2 Urborg Repossessions, and we were just playing to make it to late game and then eventually win the game. We kind of had a feeling of inevitability on our side. It was really hard to deal with. We had Jaya, I had Cruelty at Gix, I had Squee, I had the 2/2 Knight that gets indestructible.
All on color rares.
Wow.
Must be
Yeah.
nice, Ryan.
Yeah, like,
Must be nice.
I'd love to sit here and tell you how good I am at drafting, but I don't think it was that hard to draft the deck that I drafted.
Your deck wasn't free, right?
Yeah,
Not
like,
completely, kinda, but not completely.
yeah, like it
There's
took
some skill there.
a lot of people, but like a lot of people would have drafted a little differently. But for the most part, it was pretty straightforward, pretty on rails. I will say though, I am leaning more towards this Mardu like template of a deck. I guess the red, black, splash white. I do like it a lot. It just seems like it's usually there. It seems like Urborg Repossession wheels all the time, and Maria's Outrider, and they're just super good.
Yeah.
And it's easy to splash the white cards that I want to splash. It really leans to the way I play.
I feel like Urborg's Repossession is not long to be wheeling very soon. I think people are going to start picking up on that card.
Yeah,
and
but
it's just being very strong.
Well, it's willing now. Get it while you can, because it's
get it while you can.
It's good.
Yeah. So Ryan, what was the worst card in your deck?
Oh God, I had a sideboard Meteor in.
you had a main deck ever?
No, I didn't main deck it, but I sided it in.
I saw it. I saw it at one point. You sided it. Was it good?
It was pretty good from the board. The dude just had a bunch of. The dude just had a bunch of 3/2 flyers that I just couldn't deal with them all.
You heard it. You heard it from Ryan.
Sideboard Meteor to deal with flyers. It was the jankiest of sideboards ever. I was like, am I really about to do this? And then I also sideboarded in the 2/3 flyer that gets like +1/+1 whenever another creature enters the battlefield this turn. I had to sideboard that in against him too. The meteor was kind of questionable against the flyers. So he had a bunch of 2/3s, but it did hit a 3/2
the flyers
eventually.
deck does have a lot of random 2/3s.
Yeah, but it hit a Talus Lookout, which was good enough. So.
Yep.
All right, and that's my deck. Andrew, how was your deck?
Well, I also went 3-0 in this FNM this week. My deck actually went more towards this blue-white, and that was it. No splashes, just straight up blue-white. At one point, I was constructing the deck. I had a few black cards that I thought putting in there, and I just looked at this. I looked at my deck and I saw I was skewing more towards like this evasive Flyers deck and just some low to the ground kind of creatures as well. So it was really skewing more aggressive with just some heavy finishers like Denatha Benlia's Hope, basically like sort of a ground Baneslayer. It's got First Strike, Vigilance, Lifelink for 5, and it's a 4/4. I mean, that card is it's a must deal with when you play it against your opponents. And I had quite a few combat tricks, actually, more so than I had removal. I believe I had 1 Citizen's Arrest in the main and I think it was a Swift Shot and just some very light counter spells. But for the most part, it was Join Forces was really that one card that really shined to me in this format. I had a Soldier sub theme as well, so I had these really aggressive starts where I could drop a turn 1 Soldier into the 2/2 that makes or into the Soldier Lord as well. And so I found that to be good. And then I also had a kind of wall sub theme as well with the 0/3 Bulwark going into the 1/3, the one that searches for a defender, and then the 0/5 wall. There were only 3 in the deck, but I played them and I thought they were actually pretty good when I drew them. I often just swung for 3 on turn 2 with the Bulwark. Something I really wanted to do with this deck, I've been noticing that since it's the first week, people are really willing to try new strategies. And the domain strategy is one of those strategies I found to be pretty complicated to get through, especially with all the new cards. There's a lot of things going on there. And so I thought about really taking advantage of that, just playing a really good deck that's just going to hit every drop. You curve out on them, and you have all these coming to play tap lands, slowing them down, and you just kind of get there. You have a few evasive flyers, you get that early damage in, you chip away with the flyers. And so that was kind of my strategy going in. My first pick would have said otherwise, but I saw and kind of read the table. I got a fourth pick Citizen's Arrest on my table, and I thought I knew white was open at that point, and so I just kind of went all in on that. My card quality probably wasn't the best, but strategy wise I think it was pretty good. I was able to curve and just really punish my opponents for coming to play tap lands.
My question go ahead, Ryan.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
You played a card that I kind of questioned when I
hell yes.
When I first saw.
Get him, Ryan.
No, I'm not getting this. This is not a gotcha.
Him, Ryan.
This is not a gotcha. This is
him,
just.
Ryan. I was right behind you.
The pack's turning on me.
I have a card that you played, and I kind of made a comment about in our game. Do you know which card I'm talking about?
I know what card you're talking about. I was about
to on my worst cards in the set list. Okay. Maybe enlighten me on what card made this 3-0 deck bad.
No, I didn't think it made it bad. I was going to actually ask you about it because I'm interested.
Tell me about it.
Vanquisher's Axe.
Yeah.
And 1 mana, 2 to equip, +2/+0. How many games did this win you that you probably wouldn't have got? Like, was it necessary?
In this particular setup, given the way the deck went with the extra soldiers I was getting, it often actually traded up quite a bit. I'm willing to throw a soldier at a 3/3 or some kind of 3 toughness creature that were out there. And then it actually cleaned up a lot of games when I put it on my, my dorky kind of 1/2 flyer. And then suddenly it's a 4/1 flyer coming at you, really chipping away. And I find that it was good in this deck. I don't think it's good in every deck. I think if you're playing really aggressive flyers, it just adds to that aggression. And so I'd probably play it again if I was in this kind of flyer strategy with a few tokens just to get the extra trades. But in a lot of other decks, I think it's pretty subpar.
From my side of the table, from where I was sitting, playing you,
mm-hmm.
To me, Vanquisher's Axe was way more scary than Protected Negotiators.
Yeah.
Is that a fair assessment of your deck?
I think so. I think the way the Protect Negotiators is just kind of, it was more there for the soldier than it was for the counter spell. I think I've countered 1 spell with it, but boy, did I make a soldier like every time I had the chance to, and just taxed them for a little mana when I played the Protect the Negotiators. That Axe was it surprised me how good it was in this deck, but it was really just for those sack plays or just chipping in some extra damage. You really put them to the test if they're willing to trade a card for your token.
If you were to draft again,
mm-hmm.
Would you take your first Axe over Protected Negotiators, this deck? If you were to draft this deck again?
No, because I still think that Protect the Negotiators was probably a little bit higher card quality.
Lord. He had the Soldier Lord, right?
Yeah, I had the Soldier Lord at that point, and so I really dug that, having the extra 1/1. But I feel like I'm going to wheel the Axe every time. I think I may have had a second Axe in my sideboard just because it came up, as a second to last pick. But in this particular build, with those flyers and these tokens, it really kind of shined. Not so much with the defenders.
Not so much with the defenders.
Yeah. I was kind of scrambling for picks there, but the defenders ended up being kind of scary too. That Bulwark in an aggro deck is a little bit better than you think. And then when you're attacking with an 0/5 wall for 5 on turn 4, or actually attacking with the 0/5 wall and the 0/3 wall on turn 4 for 8 damage, I've won quite a few games like that too.
I stole a game with that Bulwark. It gives haste. Did you know that its ability gives haste?
I did.
Wow.
He may or may not have killed me with that.
Yeah. But I did kind of what I set out to do, having this really deck that has all my lands coming to play untapped. And I did really punish the two domain decks that I did end up playing. A lot of coming to play tap lands, a lot of missing colors.
So you played against 2 domain decks.
Mm-hmm.
Was one scarier than mine? That's what I'm wondering. That's my real question. I mean, just get straight to the point.
Yeah, I had another player it was my second round opponent, and they actually ended up getting domain 5 on turn 3 with an untapped land and played the 4/6 domain.
Is that guy scary to your deck though?
It was scary on turn 3 when you're
Yeah.
stumbling on some land. I got a little color screwed there, which sometimes it happens in 2-color decks. Or it just happens in general. Some color screw is a thing, mana screw is a thing. It's part of the game. And so that was a little scary. Their deck, the card quality in their deck was quite good, and that's the thing about these domain decks. The quality of their cards are spectacular because they get to play, the best cards in the format. And I think someone could actually tell me a little bit more about that in their recap. Robi,
I have one more quick question.
Sure.
So, how many times did you mulligan?
Whew, man.
Andrew, the mulligan king.
There's something about, I think, just from playing Arena.
I was surprised.
Yeah. I have not I try to not keep sketchy hands or two land hands of a solid color, especially in these 2-color decks. I've mulliganed down to 5 quite a bit, and with this deck being as aggressive as it was, it actually kind of worked out for me. It's just it's a real skill to get those mulligans going and to really just know if it's a borderline hand. Sometimes you just got to ship it back.
It kind of changed the way I played against you, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely knew that you were only keeping good hands, right? So I wasn't keeping shit hands.
Yeah.
I feel like as when you play like an aggro or like a tempo aggressively tilted deck, I feel like that opening hand is so much more important than the mid-range / control decks.
I keep terrible hands.
Yeah, but that's like fine in some decks, right? Like some sketchy hands where you have like a blocker and you're gonna hit your land drops. Like that's okay sometimes.
I'll tell you the sketchiest hand I kept then. To tilt little behind the scenes here, I kept a 6 land hand with a 1/3 defender that searches for another defender.
That's good.
6 lands in that.
That's a good hand.
You
got 2 creatures. In 6 lands, that's good.
Yeah, but you're not. But you got to concede that you're only playing something on turn 4.
Yeah.
Luckily, I kind of got there.
And you are just gonna play. You're gonna draw stuff, right?
That was a game 3, and I knew my opponent was playing a very slow deck, actually even slower than mine. And so I figured if I just drew any kind of aggressive creature or anything a little bit over the top there, I'd win that game, and that's exactly what happened. I ended up
no answers for your flyers.
No, he had no answers. Actually, what happened was I believe I drew the 0/5 wall on turn 3, played the defender searcher, got the bulwark, and then attacked for 8 the next turn with the bulwark because it gives haste to your defenders. And so I was attacking for 8 on turn 5 with a 6 land keep, and then I just kept drawing gas because I had all those lands that I just plowed through my deck basically. So it was pretty good.
What was your biggest takeaway, Andrew?
Biggest takeaway is that I don't think Citizens Arrest gets enough. It's not respected enough.
Yeah, I don't respect it.
Yeah. I think people get really dissuaded by that double pip on there, the double white casting cost. And I think and some people actually try to splash with it. And you can't splash a card like that. You got to be really devoted to your 2-color. And so I can't wait till these things start going around a little bit later in the game. Like I got one on 4, and I'm sure I could probably get one on 6, like a pick 6 on this, just because as people go into those more higher domain decks, or they try to do a 3-color, that double pip really gets a little tougher to kind of splash in your decks. So, yep, that was my takeaway.
Are you still high on it with the resurgence of Destroy Evil? Like, Destroy Evil is a super playable card right now.
It's very playable. It got me quite a few times. I'd still play it. I think it's just a solid removal spell.
Do you think Citizens Arrest is going to get worse once more people actually know about Destroy Evil? Because I feel like people don't even know how good Destroy Evil is yet, right? Like, that card hoses this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Specifically
it's like it's a blowout, right? Like if they hit the Citizens Arrest and then block something, it's
block. Like they can do some real.
That's the danger with. I mean, that's just the danger of those enchantment. They're not really removal; they're just kind of temporarily locking them down, and so that's always a.
Did you
fear
play
there.
any Destroy Evils?
No, I actually never got one. I think I took some other things a little bit above it, and so I actually valued more of the pump effects, the one that gave +1/+1 and lifelink.
Yeah, that one's good.
Yeah, especially in my aggressive deck, and I feel like it gets even higher in aggressive decks. And I think the 17 lands data actually shows that particular one is very good. Yeah. So yeah,
I kind of want to do a quick throwback here.
Sure.
You were known for playing that card in Kamigawa, that green card that was like destroy an enchantment, what was it? It was like the green
Fade into Antiquity.
Fade into Antiquity.
Yeah.
I'm starting to feel like Broken Wings might be playable in this format. Destroy an artifact, enchantment, or creature with flying. What do you think?
I don't think so.
I think it's highly playable. Are you talking main boardable?
Yeah, like in best of ones. Like I played a deck and I just lost to flyers like a lot. Or O-rings. Those are the two things I lost to.
Yeah.
Those are the only two things that ever beat me with my Walls deck was flyers and O-rings. And
it's pretty nice because the white removal is all O-ring type based right now. You got Citizen's Rest and you have the
well, not completely. There is like the 1-mana one.
There's the domain one, yeah.
And the Otoi Blast. There's the 1-mana Swords to Plowshares.
And there's the sagas, right? Like the sagas are pretty impactful when people mainboarding them. Like the sagas are good. They're rares and uncommons, but they're good. I don't know. I'm just on the fence about it. I'm thinking about it.
Yeah. So Robi, tell me about your deck and your FNM experience this week.
So I came to FNM kind of tired, which is never good at like week one because there's so many weird new card interactions. And I ended up with a Wooburg 1/2 pile of like just a ridiculous pile. I don't know, like looking back, that I did any deck building mistakes. I think and even in my packs. So I started off with I first picked the 2-mana White Knight, and then I second picked like a Wingmantle Chaplain just to find out that wasn't open. But I kind of ended up with like a real weird pile of cards. Like for the audio only people, I think you need to like see it to really fully comprehend what was going on in this. Just like it was almost like an aggro deck, right, Ryan? Like you even made a comment like, "What the hell is that? Really a 5-color aggro deck?"
Yeah.
I had very, very premium 2-drops.
I think I honestly think if you cut it down to Abzan, right, white, black, green, I think it could have been super good.
My problem is like I wasn't prepared to play a deck like this. Like the amount of decisions to make were like it was so complex. Like I suddenly had no idea how all these cards were together. Like I had the White Knight, which gives you an extra life anytime you would gain life. I didn't remember that ever a single time in games. I had Urborg Repossession, which gave me life, which I forgot about half the time. I had the Black Knight, which prevented players from gaining life, which I forgot about every point in the game. Like there was just so many on the board abilities and activated abilities that I couldn't possibly keep track of it, especially in the first week. Like I just lost to myself genuinely.
But I'm super curious. Like, was Sprouting Goblin and Micromancer worth making your deck red and blue?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, because I had the lands. The way that I picked the lands so highly, I picked the lands pretty highly. If there isn't like a premium card in the pack, I'd rather speculate, especially in pack 1 when I'm able to get more lands. I'd rather speculate than take a mediocre card. I speculated very hard in this draft. like I had like Urg, Spawn of Turg, and like every color of 2-drop except a blue one.
I wish I could see the cards you didn't play because that would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think I built the best version of this I could. It's just like I'm so removal light.
Well, yeah. To me,
wouldn't matter.
Yeah, to me, Sprouting Goblin is only in there to help you fix your lands, which isn't really an issue if you don't have Sprouting Goblin.
Color,
right? Right? Like if you don't have Sprouting Goblin, then you don't need to fix your lands. But if you know what I mean?
I had like 4 red sources, I think.
You had 3 red cards, but like the best one is Sprouting Goblin, the Flowstone and Monstrosity. Like if you don't have the Goblin, you're not playing Flowstone and Monstrosity, I don't think.
Mhm.
And then Micromancer is good, but I don't know if it's good enough to splash in a 3-color aggro pile. I would splash it in a 3-color mid-range pile, a 3-color late game
This is
pile for
kind of
sure.
okay. So this looks like an aggro pile, but like think of the activated abilities on every single card in this deck. Like I've got so many mana sinks.
Yeah, but it's like, so with aggro decks like this, the threat of activation is what
Yeah.
makes them good. You never actually have to activate them because people aren't going to block them
that's
for
what I was
free.
doing, right? Like, but like it's so hard to keep track when I have like I had games where I had like 3 or 4 activated abilities on the battlefield all at once. Like
Yeah.
and then kicker cards in my hand, and like there's just so much going on.
Right.
That like I wasn't ready, especially in week 1. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. There were games that like if I played them back, I think I would have won if I just would have remembered triggered abilities. Like
Yeah.
genuinely, like
I feel like if you
like-
just had some vanilla 2-drops and you got rid of the Death Bloom guys, the 2 Death Blooms, the Sprouting Goblin, the Micromancer, and the other 2 red cards, and you just tilted
the
this
problem
as
was what else I had was I didn't have any other good cards.
okay.
Like I was like genuinely like I don't even think I had any other green cards. I only had like 7 or 8 cuts, right? Because I took so many lands.
Okay, that makes sense then.
Did you ever
Yeah.
consider going into a different color pie? I mean, just to forego this like domain strategy.
So what ended up putting me fully into domain was in pack 2, I was past the beast collar.
Now, why would beast collar put you into a domain?
Because it was green. And I was trying to stay mostly black white in pack 1. And then if I was going 3 colors, I might as well like like I had enough fixing right already. Like that solidified that I was in green. But I already had a pile of amazing 2-drops.
Yeah, but 2-drops are just less good when you can't cast them on 2, right?
Yeah.
So normally, yes, right? But like, if you look at the 2-drops I have here, how many of these are really 2-drops? Like, Ilias is kind of one. The Knight's good any point in the game.
Like all but one?
Yeah, they're all solid. Like you want to cast all these on 2.
Late game. Yeah, they're all good
they're
on
fine
2,
late game, but they're best on 2. I like all of them besides Goblin, which is basically a 3-drop.
But what about like Rootwalla?
Like Rootwalla is best on 2. I mean, maybe on 3, but
3
it's
even. Like my curse so weird.
Yeah, I think
I'll say it now.
It's close. Like to me, it's close.
In
to
the
like
last week of the
deck.
format, this would be an undefeated deck.
Save it. You're not gonna be.
I'm serious. Like
save it.
There were so many lines I just missed with like Urg Spawn of Turk to gain me 3 life with the Night Out.
Your card quality is
activations. Yeah. There were so many like weird mistakes I made. Like I just couldn't pile this properly.
Yeah, I feel you, but I feel like if you keep this together, it doesn't beat a end of the season draft deck. Like to me, your card quality, you have 6 very good cards.
I mean, just with point them out.
So you have So you have both the Knights, the white and the black Knight.
Yep.
Then you have Elias Ilkor, which is the white black 2/2 that whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain a life, or when one of your creatures die, they lose a life with Death Touch. Yeah. You have the Beast Caller, which is amazing.
Yep.
Then you have Urg Spawn of Turk, which is a top tier card, and you have Cruelty of Gix, and you could maybe throw in Territorial Maru. So you have.
Are we not counting Argavian? Whatever. That's a good card, right?
It's good, but I'm talking about like premium cards. Like pack 1, pick 1 cards. You have a lot of those. You have 6. You have 6 or 7. Yeah. Then you have 4 or 5 decent cards. But then you have some bad cards.
What are the bad cards?
So the Cleaving Skyrider's not super good. The Death Blooms are not good.
He kind of did work for me, right? Like he was like a 6-drop for me.
The Bog Badger's not good. The
my one game I won was off of the back of Bog Badger. Just so you guys know.
The Barricade's good, but not in this deck. This is not a Barricade deck.
That might be true.
The Eerie Soul Reader's good, but again, not in this deck. This is not a Soul Reader deck. Like
this is just there's so much going on.
The Monstrosity's not in this deck. The Micromancer's not in this deck. The Sangir guy, I don't think is in this deck. Like,
So, like, you see all my reasons for running all these cards. Maybe not Singer is probably like my worst card.
I think Jodas Codex is kind of bad in this deck too, honestly.
I was full domain.
Yeah, but still, like you like this deck is trying to
cards for free.
I understand, but
it's just an insurance policy, right?
The curve of this deck is like, by the time I get to 5 mana, they need to be at 5 life. And so when I tap out and play draw a card on turn 5,
I think this is more of a mid-range deck than you think. Like I think you're thinking of this as more of like an aggro deck. I see this as like a weird mid-range, almost a late game deck.
well, then it doesn't grind out the card advantage that a mid-range deck needs to grind out. It just doesn't have the card advantage that a mid-range deck needs.
Isn't that what the Codex is for, right?
That's like one card.
Yeah, it's one
You
card.
have that, you have Urborg, and you have Gix, but like that's not enough for a mid-range deck. Because
I mean, that's why Micromancer's in there, right?
But you have like let's see, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards that are not 3 drops or less.
5 cards that are not.
You have 6. You have 6 cards that cost 3 or 4 or more in your entire deck.
Well, I think that's a little misleading though, because
is it?
Yes, because the Skyrider is a 6-drop in my mind.
You're only playing them on 6 ever?
Not always, but like a lot of times I would like to just save them. Like if I have 3 drops in my hand, I'm saving this one, right?
Sure,
it depends.
But
it's like modal, right?
Okay, so we can count that. So you have 7 cards that cost 4 or more.
Soul Tender is almost like a 5-drop in my brain. It's a 5-mana activated ability.
Soul Tender?
Like I'm never not using every single mana every single turn. Like this deck is literally using every single piece of mana that I have.
I think
on every single turn.
I think
like
every
never
deck,
turn. Yeah.
I think
exactly,
every
right?
good deck is doing that, right? But you were definitely, I mean, there's no way you weren't running out of cards with this deck as I'm looking at it, right? Did you always have gas in your hand?
Not always gas, but I always had things to do with my mana, right? Like I was always spending mana.
Right, but
which wins you the game, right? Like not as much as cards do, but like mana, like spending mana on relevant abilities, right?
Right, but that's super good for closing out the game. I don't know. I just feel like if you had
another piece of card advantage that you aren't recognizing either is Goblin, the Sprouting Goblin. I was second lands to it.
That's true. That is.
It was better.
That is super good.
It was better with Urg, right?
Yeah.
Like there were so many interactions.
Sprouting Goblin is super good for second lands late game. Like you just don't even need him. Yeah. How early did you get the 2 knights, the White Knight and the Black Knight, and the Elias Ilkor?
Pack 1. They were all pack 1.
All 3 of those?
Yeah, all 3
that would have literally been my deck. Like I'm done there. That's my deck.
Aggressively hard. The person on my right and my left were in white and black.
How? Who cares if they're passing you knights? Yeah. Who cares? They're just bad.
You know you're getting premium cards.
I first picked the first night, and then I was passed. Actually, I think the second night I got in pack 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If I got those 3 2-drops in pack 1, that's my deck. Like that's just my deck.
Super hard. I was kind of aggressively hard. Like that's where I wanted to be, right? But like,
yeah.
And then the Beast Caller, and then the Root Walla, and then I was just like.
So were you solidly black white in pack 1?
No, I think I got like a late Maru.
Yeah. See.
So I was speculating, right? I was speculating. I was taking the best card.
Yeah, I think it's fine to waffle in pack 1, but I still think. I don't know. I think there's a world
from the looking back at the deck. I don't think I would have changed anything, even in the draft. Like genuinely.
I wish we had a VOD. We could see the draft because I'd be super interested to see. Yeah. But I think you guys would agree with me a lot more than you think you. Oh, I'm sure I would. Like
because where I was at the table, it was just a weird spot. That like I was getting fed really good shit.
Yeah, I have a question.
And that was it, just the good cards.
Is there a world where you get past Kyrion Beastcaller at any time in the draft that you don't play it?
No.
Okay, well, that's where you and I are different. That's where you and I are different.
Yeah.
It's a philosophy of how you want to play the game and how you want to construct. You know,
if you're really
no, there's nothing wrong with any of that. You know, if that's the kind of play strategy you like, where you have all these different lines kind of moving, it's a lot mentally taxing to do that.
Yeah, I wasn't ready. I will give you guys that. Like, I absolutely cannot play this deck properly.
Yeah. So a big aspect of drafting is what we call the wheel. And that is when you look at your pack, you take your first pick, and it starts going around. So that's a round wheel. And then so you hope to get out of your initial pack of 15, you try to get back a card. You put out a card there and try to hope that you're going to get that back. And so it kind of goes better as the game goes on in the draft. You start really kind of figuring out what people are doing, based off the knowledge that you had in your opening pack. Oh, what person took this? What person took that? And so my reasonable wheels of this week, my first choice is Impulse. I think people have really kind of discounted how deep this card goes. Impulse is an instant for one colorless and one blue, and you look at the top 4 cards of your library, you put one in your hand and the rest on the bottom. The card selectivity in this set, I think, is pretty good just because the power level of a lot of these cards are pretty high right now, and I think it's been pushed pretty well. And so if you're looking for that one removal spell, if you're looking for that one card to really take you to the, to get that last couple points of damage in or to stabilize the board, I think Impulse at 2 mana is one of those kind of cards that really can help shape a hand. It was pretty instrumental in the deck that I played this week in FNM as well. As I was playing blue-white, that was one of the cards I routinely went to try to make sure to get that last curve topper. If I'm trying to get that curve on 4, I'll play this on 2 and try to look for that and really set up a good game plan. Another card I put out there was Griffin Protector. I found that flyers are pretty good in this set. They're really unsuspecting. There's a lot of just, 2/1 flyers, 1/2, and this guy seems to do pretty well in a couple different decks, but I don't think people have really valued it very well. And then the other ones are just kind of these combat tricks like Heroic Charge, Join Forces. There's all these other Heroic Charges. I should say it's a double white 2, and it gives your creatures +2/+1. We've seen a lot of these kind of cards in multiple sets. This one also has Kicker that gives you creatures trample, which is pretty nice for that last heroic charge in for a win. And so I kind of feel this card, I kind of put it out there. I'm just like, and it's a good test to see too, if people are in this kind of go wide strategy. We say go wide strategy. It means just flooding the board with a lot of creatures. And then you just overwhelm your opponent by playing cards like Heroic Charge or cards that give all your creatures +1/+1 to get that final big push of damage. And so those are my kind of wheels of this week. They're obviously skewed to my my deck of choice this week, but I found them to be coming around quite a bit.
All right. Next up, I got a couple reasonable wheels, but to me, they're unreasonable wheels. Urborg Repossession and Gaia's Might are going criminally late in Magic Arena. Urborg's Repossession is 1 black for a sorcery with kicker, colorless, and a green, and you can return a creature to your hand if you just pay it, but if you kick it, you get a creature and a permanent and 2 life. Actually, you don't even need to pay the kicker to gain the 2 life. You just get the 2 life for just the card. The kicker just gives you the extra permanent. So this card is going like average last seen at or average taken at is like 8 or 9, which is insane. Yeah. And Gaia's Might average taken at is like 10 or 11, which is criminal. So these are cards that are just going to bump your win rate in Arena for free. They're going to wheel. You're going to get copies of them. But I would value these cards. I would consider taking these cards as early as pick 4 or 5. What do you guys think about that?
I agree with that, especially Urborg Repossession.
I find your reasoning to be very reasonable. It's good. I think that Urborg Repossession is definitely going absolutely criminally late. The 2 life helps stabilize. I mean, it's just a nice little bonus for that. But getting another target permanent is just one of those things where I think people really sleep on how good permanents are in this set as well. You're regrowing your Oblivion Ring type style cards. You're regrowing any artifacts or enchantments you may have. I mean, it's quite a good card. And I think it's one of those cards that really pushes your deck quite a bit into another level when you play it. Yeah. The Gaia's Might is very nice. But again, it's that domain. You have to be really pretty deep into domain or a 3-color deck to really feel the effects of that card. And so I think that's why it goes a little bit later.
I don't think you have to be super late, but I think it's a reasonable wheel. But the Urborg's Repossession in the 2 weeks that we've played this format, I have gotten back a Cruelty of Gix. I've gotten back a Liliana the Veil. I've gotten back a couple Jayas. I've gotten back so much stuff off the permanent. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I've definitely done some real, especially last night. I had a line where I played Urborg Repossession, and I sacked a land with Urg just to get it back to have the 2 permanents in my graveyard. Like there's so many weird use cases for this card. It's insane.
How often are you playing this card just with no kicker?
I'm jamming kickers. Like I'll jam a force if I don't have
Or dual
any
land?
dual lands. Yeah, I'll jam 2 or 3 force in my deck if I don't have dual lands.
Does this raise the value of the green top land?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
Especially
I've been saying that, right? Like I said that last week. Like that it's good in your Esper decks, and you literally want the green white dual land because it helps you splash all your stuff.
I think the green blue dual land now kind of in the Esper decks kind of
It's
goes
the
up
biggest
too.
one, yeah.
Yeah.
The best win rates.
Yeah, just the little kickers. But I don't know about the win rates, but
I don't know about 4th, 5th pick guys might though.
yeah, that's
you
probably
kind of
6, 7.
You
right?
need that card to wheel for your archetype to be open, right?
I think there could be a domain deck that runs 4 of those, right?
Yeah, but
I
like
think that would be
I
like
think they're getting those on the wheel though, and they're
Well-
taking all the good domain cards before that. They're just
Yeah.
taking all the good cards before that because as of right now, only the domain decks really value that.
Yeah, but to me, if you're in green, it's at least Giant's Growth, right? Like there's no just 2-color green deck,
Yeah.
right?
I don't know.
I
mean,
think there is like a green white.
I think there's a green white. I think there's 2-color decks here that just can really do that, but they may not want this kind of card. And I think that's what makes it a reasonable wheel because there's so many other decks out there who see this kind of card. You could feel safe that it's probably going to come back to you just because of the limitations to it, or maybe the pack is a little bit stronger than you know. There's other cards above this, and so it does make it a reasonable wheel.
Yeah, and I will say pack 1. I don't think many people are first picking Urborg Repossession, which I don't think is incorrect. Like I think it's fine to not first or second pick it.
Yeah,
But I will say note it if you do see it in your first or second pack and see if it comes around. Because
that's
if
a
it
good sign, yeah.
Because if it does, that's a good sign, and if it doesn't, then you almost need to get to the point where you're 3rd or 4th picking it. Because you do at least one of these in every deck that can play it. At least one.
Yep. So my reasonable wheels, I have Shield Wall Sentinel, which is the 4-mana colorless defender, the 1/3 that whenever it enters the battlefield, you can get another defender. This card is like way too good for like how late you're seeing it in your packs. Like I've definitely like last picked this on Arena. Like it's so good. I feel like people are gonna catch on to it because the win rate on 17 lands is obscenely high, especially for this. It's disgustingly high for how bad it looks on paper. And then my next one that I have is Gibbering Barricade, which is another 3-mana, like 2 and a black for a defender wall, the 2/4 that has the activated ability for 3 mana. You can sacrifice a creature and you gain 1 life, which has turned out to be pretty good for me. What do you guys think?
I actually had an arena deck that was basically these 2 cards.
It was the ugliest, worst looking deck. And Ryan's like, dude, I'm like 3-1. Like I'm gonna go pretty far. How far did you end up going?
I think I got to 5 with it, and it was like 3 Shield Wall Sentinels, 3 Gibbering Barricades, and the Flying Shade to like win games, and that was like the whole deck. Urborg Repossessions and stuff, but like
looked terrible.
It was terrible. It was like not fun. It was not fun. But
yeah,
money back, so it works, right?
Yeah, I've really noticed that the 2/4 stat line on Gibbering Barricade's pretty relevant. Like it can't get lightning striked.
It's super relevant, right? It's insane.
I think 4 is the magic number in this set for toughness to just be outside of a lot of things. And a lot of the creatures too, a lot of the really early aggressive creatures have that 3. And then for it to actually have an attack power is really nice. So that's pretty good. It's a very aggressively costed. I never thought of saying an aggressively costed wall, but it really is. It does quite a bit for you, and the life gain and the card draw kind of get you into that later game that these walls are trying to get you to do. Something I noticed in the draft in the FNM was that there was a lot of chatter about the Defenders deck, and so a lot of people at our table that we were drafting at were really looking to get this Defender kind of strategy.
I was one of them for sure. Like I've second picked a Wingmantle Chaplain.
Yeah. And I think there were other people at the table who kind of got that as well. And this is something that brings up where how many people are in what how many people can this archetype support at a draft table? And I think it's a really low number especially for this defender wall deck. They're kind of two different builds.
When I put this in the freaking reasonable wheels, I'm not implying that you only play this in the defender's deck. You put this in every black deck.
I mean, not the aggro ones, right?
Like, not the most hyper aggressive, but every deck that has Urborg's Repossession, this card is insane in. Like, the fact that you can just sacrifice something, if you only have one permanent in your graveyard, you can just sacrifice something to convert your mana into cards and then get them back with your Urborg's Repossessions.
Well, and with these two cards in particular, Shieldwall Sentinel, I'd play it, search for the Gibbering Barricade, play the Barricade, then I would chump with the Sentinel, and then sack it and draw a card. There's just so much value that my opponents often just couldn't overcome it.
This is also very important in the Wingmantle Chaplain decks, because you want to be able to sacrifice your Wingmantle Chaplains to get them back from your graveyard with Urborg's Repossession.
Yeah.
As far as a wheel, I think these are pretty safe to put out there. You're not going to first pick these cards, but you're definitely hoping to get them back.
You're hoping you get them most of the time,
Yeah. I do think if you start off pack one with a couple payouts, you might aggressively take Shieldwall Sentinel.
I'm taking these hard.
Yeah.
Especially these are very good signs, I think.
Yes.
Like, Gibbering Barricade also points more to it's it's not even safer than Shieldwall Sentinel because it's so good, but
if you have 17 lands in your deck and you're playing swamps, you want Gibbering Barricades. Yep. I think it's literally that simple.
Yep. I think so too. This isn't just a defender's card. It's insane in the defender's deck, but I think you can hedge your bets with this one too.
Yep.
And then next up we have this 17 lands Data Dive. Take it away, Ryan.
All right. Well, I'm going to start off with some archetype win rates. I kind of highlighted a couple. I really try to only look at the archetypes that were being played more than what I would consider to be anecdotal data. So if it's been played 100 times, like mono red, but it has a 60-some% win rate, I don't really count that because it's only been played 100 times, right? So first we're going to look at the two highest win rate decks, which are Orzhov and Boros. They're the two highest win rate archetypes with played over 4,000 times. And Boros is sitting at 61.5%. Orzhov is sitting at 59.4%. Then those two colors, Orzhov and Boros with a splash, are also the highest win rate decks with a splash. And the splash is coming from Rakdos usually, I think, not always. It could be a Esper splash in Orzhov as well. And Rakdos is sitting at a kind of lower win rate of 56.5. But the key things to me here are the decks. So I took a look at the commons and took a look at some of the statistics. The Orzhov deck is really a control late game walls deck, judging by the commons. So the highest win rate commons in the Orzhov deck are the Shieldwall Sentinel we were just talking about, Extinguish the Light, which is the black mana 2 and double black for an instant that kills anything, and you can gain 3 life if you kill something with CMC 3 or less. Take up the shield, put a 1/1 counter, and give something indestructible for 2. That's the white card, and Destroy Evil and Phyrexian Rager. So these are just the Orzhov decks are just the grindy, they're splashing stuff, but they're just grindy, doing walls, doing stuff, and grinding stuff out. All those win rates all those commons have a higher improvement when drawn of 1. So those commons are key pieces to that deck. Shieldwall Sentinel, Extinguish Light, Take Up the Shield, Destroy Evil, Phyrexian Rager, in that order. The crazy thing about the Boros deck, though, is the commons aren't super key. So the Boros deck has Keldon Strike Team, which is the 3/1 that you can kick for 2, and it gets 2/1s. It's red and white. That has a percentage win rate of only 1.0 improvement, and that's its top common in the Boros deck. So the Boros deck, I think you're going to lean more on uncommons and rares. The second highest win rate in that deck is Lightning Strike, followed by Citizen's Arrest. And Lightning Strike's 3 damage. Citizen's Arrest is the O-ring we just talked about. The Boros deck, you're kind of only going to want to run that if you're heavy on the uncommons and rares. Like they're really going to guide you in, just like all the knight, the dragon, the Shivan dragon, the X and a red. There's all kinds of them, but you'll know them when you see them. Good Boros uncommons and rares. Then the Rakdos deck is the most reliant on commons, but it has the lowest win rate, which I thought was interesting, or one of the lower win rates. But with that being said, Maria's Outrider, the 4/4 reach that domes people, improves the Rakdos deck by 4% when drawn, which is huge. A huge improvement. So my favorite color pie right now is this Mardu pile. Oftentimes I'm Rakdos splashing white because I'm getting premium white cards. According to 17 lands, that's not the best deck. It's better to go, Orzhov splash red.
Yeah, there's not enough data to reliably know that, though.
Yeah, which makes sense because, like, how many red double pip cards do you really want to play, though?
Yeah.
There's not as many as double white cards.
All of your white cards that you want. Yeah.
Not all of them, but there's some.
There's some. Like some of your most important, like the ones that you'd be most, like the angels and stuff too, is what I'm talking about. Like the premium white cards.
Yeah, I mean the premium red cards are kind of too, like Jaya and the Dragon Saga
and Defiler too,
and the Defiler,
which is mildly premium.
But, I'm obviously talking about the middle of the Outrider. Like I would definitely splash the Outrider in a Orzhov deck and Lightning Strike. And one thing I did want to point out though is aggressive sabotage. I don't know if you guys saw that.
I did. I was going to ask you about that. Tell me more about it.
Yeah.
Aggressive sabotage is 2 colorless and a black for sorcery. They discard 2. You can kick it for a red, and they also take 3 damage. It's getting up there, boys. Now's the time to invest. You know what BC's grinding out card advantage decks?
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what does?
Lightning.
Lightning does. It's time. It's time to start aggressively drafting aggressive sabotages. Pick 4, pick 5, and
we just need like 4 or 5, right, Ryan?
I would 100% play 5 copies of aggressive sabotage, and you would play your tapped land on turn 2, and then I would make you discard 2 cards on turn 3, and then you play a land and a body on turn 3, and then you discard the rest of your hand, and then I just win the game.
I see this Rakdos deck, with the card that it's playing. It's really trying to get that last couple points of damage. With the Maria's Outrider, you're getting that last maybe 4 points or 3 points, actually, more likely if you're in that color. But that extra kind of points of damage because you've probably had these aggressive starts, or you're just trying to grind them out, getting as much advantage as you can. And then you see something like an aggressive sabotage there too. Again, trying to close out that game, but closing the life gap too by getting that extra 3 damage there. So it's kind of interesting to see.
To me, the Rakdos deck win rate is due to user error, like player error. So to me, when you're seeing these statistics, or at least when I'm seeing these statistics, I'm seeing what are the top Rakdos commons: Maria's Outrider, Phyrexian Rager, Lightning Strike, Aggressive Sabotage. That means you shouldn't be playing an aggressive Rakdos deck, right? And most people, I think, when they play a Rakdos deck, they expect it to be aggressive. They draft it to be kind of aggressive. But to me, the Rakdos mid-range card advantage grind deck is the Rakdos deck to play.
Huh. Is it forcible? Like, could you just go into any pack and just force Rakdos?
I don't know if it is yet, but it will be. It will be at some time in the format. Yeah.
I'm thinking now would almost be the time to try and force this, right?
Yeah, I think the Outriders and the Sabotages are pretty available, but I think in the future people will start
Lightning
to
Strike
value.
Is not available.
Yeah, Lightning Strike's a little bit too unavailable right now. I think it's a little bit too highly valued right now for what it is. I mean, I think it's super good, but I don't think. I think people are taking it just far too early, in my opinion, to really force the Rakdos deck, because you need a couple copies of it, right?
I've noticed that the red-blue decks kind of fuck up the pods for like the Rakdos and the blue-white people too. Just like taking all the instants and sorceries for no reason and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. But I just think it's interesting. I think the Rakdos deck, I think the Orzhov deck is the wall deck, the Boros deck is the uncommons rares deck, and the Rakdos deck is the card advantage deck. It's just a different format than we're used to seeing these color pairs be in, and I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, that is super interesting. So we can't force Rakdos or Orzhov or Boros. You can't.
Orzhov is the most forcible. I mean, look at the cards on the Orzhov list.
Yeah, those are going pretty right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Destroy evil. Yeah.
Destroy evil, take up the shield. I mean, Phyrexian Razor's not going late, but those and Extinguish is not going late. But you're fine first picking those because you're getting those other 3 cards late, like 24/7, right?
You ever splash blue in your Rakdos decks?
I haven't drafted enough straight Rakdos decks. I almost always splash white, honestly.
Okay.
What would you want to splash blue for?
The card draw, Like, because you said that it's like a real
Yeah,
grindy.
it could
Like,
be
I
good.
think like that card draw spell that makes him discard a card. Wouldn't that
Like,
be like
yeah,
exactly
like
what that deck would
Grixis.
want?
I
Yeah.
think that could be there. Yeah, I think people are drafting. I've seen it drafted, but I've seen it drafted too much towards the control aspect and not enough more towards the grind aspect. And I think it's better in the grind mid range. Like you want some control, but you don't need all the control.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I'm
Definitely.
splashing cards like that, I'm splashing them to win, not to just kind of smooth out some things. I had the opportunity to splash black for some kind of value cards, and I just realized they weren't impactful enough to warrant the splash. Just drawing two. There's other draw two cards in Rakdos that you can get.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think when you splash, you got to be really careful about that they're actually going to be impactful and not just a means to an end to your deck, or to get you to somewhere else. I think they've got to be, oh my gosh, I got the dragon, the mythic dragon that's X and red. Yeah, that's a splashable card. That's a game ender haymaker that your deck is better for having that card.
Are you not taking extra like lands in
I
the
think
Rakdos deck? Isn't that almost like a domain? Like you have the number one card as Mario's Outrider, right?
Yeah, you're taking some lands, but I think the deck you're talking about is more of the Dimir Splash Red deck to me. You know what I mean?
Like, isn't the Rakdos deck like borderline like a more like a black deck splashing red for removal and Mario's Outriders?
I mean, maybe, but I don't think you can also splash for the card advantage of. Like, I'd rather splash green for the Urborg, I feel like, than blue. And before that, I'd rather splash white for the removal, the uncommon removal, white cards. But you could really splash anything into it because you want the Outrider, so you want the lands. You want the Outriders to at least 3 or 4 damage.
Yeah, how highly are you valuing the lands on Rakdos? Are you just taking on-color ones, or are you taking off-color ones too? Is my main question.
I mean, you're kicking stuff, so I think you're taking off-color ones.
Yeah.
But I don't think you need a ton of off-color ones.
Not like a domain deck, right? Like you're not trying to.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're more I think you're leaning more towards like you're not really trying to take red black dualies as much, but like black white, red white, black green, red green. Like those dualies are go up a little bit just because of the flexibility they give you with the Outriders and the cards you can play. I mean, any deck that's like a mid-range grind fest is going to be decided by your card quality, right? So the better quality cards that you can put in your Rakdos deck is the better the deck's going to be, which I know sounds obvious, but most of the time people will play this Rakdos deck and they'll just jam 2-drops in there because they're 2-drops or whatever.
Yeah.
And
you want 2-drops in your Rakdos decks?
I mean, I think you need a couple, but I think this format is kind of
less 2-drop dependent.
Yeah, this is like the least 2-drop important format I think we've played in like 3 or 4 years, in my opinion.
You think there are only like specific 2-drops that you should even play?
I think it depends. It's but yeah, we'll get into the best 2-drops later.
Okay.
Is this if you're strictly 2 colors, then you gotta load up on 2-drops.
Yeah.
If you're splashing stuff, which 80% of people I feel like are that have like good decks, right?
Yeah.
Then the 2-drops are like way less important. So, but they're still important, but they're just not. You need 10. You don't need 10. You need like 4 or 5.
Okay, so as the 1-2 member of the squad, it's my horrific obligation to introduce Ryan as Alpha of the Week for his sick Jaya opening skills.
Oh man, this one has more salt than the Atlantic Ocean. All right. But you're not still my shine. As you guys know, Alpha of the Week, you talk about whatever you want. I am going to talk about Magic because we're so early in the format instead of football because football is coming up, but you should watch it. Anyway, Alpha of the Week, I think this week, you guys can all learn from this advice, and it's just find your lane in the draft and stick in it. It's okay to waffle all the way through pack 1. But once you find your lane, those late game cards that are wheeling that shouldn't be right now, they're just so valuable. And if you just flip-flop too much, it's going to hurt. So find your lane, stick in it, and keep those double pips in mind when you're drafting them. They look great, pick 3 and pick 4, but can you really afford to splash those? Probably not. So that's it. That's my sage advice for Alpha of the Week.
Yep.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your Alpha status this week. It won't last long.
I'm never losing it. You guys will get sick of hearing my voice in this part.
Yeah.
I won't be there next week because no quick draft. But what's quick draft hits, Ryan? You better look out.
I'm
What's
not
your-
losing alpha. It's not
What
happening.
one quick 30-second question? What's your football recommendation of the week?
Football recommendation, like
Yeah.
sports betting.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, lock of the week. Broncos over the Seahawks. You can take the -6.5. It's free money. It's free
Hell
money.
yeah. Thanks for that, Ryan.
You're welcome. Anyone that wants to, go make some money. This is
It's
investment
free.
advice.
It's free.
That's alpha advice right there.
Most people say this is not investment advice, and they give you investment. This is investment advice. You're welcome.
Love it. Hell yeah. Alrighty, so that's it for this week. Hopefully you'll follow us on our socials, check out what else we're doing, and hopefully we'll see you next week.
Catch you on the
Bye.
flippity flop.